Hola, buenas. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Really Understandable Spanish. I'm Pete, speaking to you from Alto Aragon. Aragon is the largest province in Spain, stretches right up to the Pyrenees, and I'm in El Pirineo. I'm in the Pyrenees, helping you with understanding Spanish, really understanding it, not just speaking it, understanding it the way the Spanish speak it. And we're at the situation now where we really need to concentrate and sort out in simple, straightforward terms how to use and understand Spanish verbs. It will take several sessions. This is the first one, a sort of overview if you like, and what we're going to be doing is simply mapping the thing out for you, the differences. And the way I'm going to do that is just by getting you to think briefly about the English way of saying verbs. So if we use as an example to sing, I'm a singer and I play guitar too. It's to sing in Spanish is cantar. Now in English we could say I sing, you sing, no change there. He or she sings, well, there's an S on it. We sing, no change there. You all sing, no change there, and they sing. Okay, this is aimed at going straight back to square one, no matter what level, to make sure that you understand and are saying the verb tenses, the verb endings, etc. properly. So, I sing, what's the problem? In Spanish it doesn't work that way. Okay? So, what's the difference? The difference is, for a start, pronouns. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they are only used in Castellano, that's mainland Spain, which is the way that we're learning Spanish. Pronouns are only used for emphasis. If I wanted to say in English, oh, I sing a lot, in Spanish I would say, yo canto mucho. I sing a lot. Somebody else might say, oh, I sing very little. They would say, yo canto muy poco. So the difference for a start is the pronouns. They're not there. That means that each part of speech in a verb has to be identified. And that's what makes Spanish verbs much more challenging for us English. Because we're used to just sort of being lazy a bit the way the Spanish are lazy, because it's really the pronoun that decides what you're saying. So we can't do that. But it's not anything terrible. We're going to take it apart bit by bit and also give you lots of quick wins, lots of ways to do it the Spanish way. Remember, I learned my Spanish here in Alto Aragon. I also used, for all the mechanics of the verbs, I used YouTube. So it's a mechanical process. The verb conjugation in Spanish is a mechanical process, and we can look at that. But go on to YouTube, just put in beginner Spanish verbs, or whatever you want to put in. There are hundreds and hundreds of providers, a bit like me, who will do that. What I'm interested in is making sure that you understand what they're saying, because they don't use all those things. They habitually use verbs colloquially, very simply, typically Spanish, very simply, and so on. So let's have a look at the first thing that we're going to do, and let's use as an example, we need to understand the fundamentals of verbs. So let's do that first. So fundamentally there are three types of verbs. They are verbs that end in AR, verbs that end in ER, and verbs that end in IR. So that's a basic split. AR verbs, ER verbs, IR verbs. Okay? There are other splits later on, etc. I'll explain those. We're not going to do all this in one go. No way. This will be your biggest challenge in Spanish. So let's simplify it, let's make it that way, let's get some quick wins, let's do it the way the Spanish do it, which is lazy. They usually use the present because they're just relaxed about the whole thing. If you think about it, when you use the present tense in English, people know what you're talking about, and even though you're talking about the future, you don't have to say it will be. Yeah? So that's what we can help you with. You need to understand that mechanics as well. Okay. So AR, ER and IR verbs. Let's have a look how they're actually made and how they're made up. So let's start with a simple AR verb. Let's use the one that I just said. Let's use cantar. Cantar is called the infinitive. Cantar is to sing. Okay? So, the way it works and the way I'll write it, and there's a reason for the shape which we don't need to go into now, is we would go I, you singular, he or she, and then we, you, all, and they. So the endings for cantar are o, as, a, amos, ais, remember, when you see a vowel, say both, yeah, and an. And all you need to do with the verb itself, and this goes right the way through for all regular verbs, come back to that in a minute, is to find the stem. The stem, in this case, is can't. So when we're actually using these parts, we take that off and we say can't. So, I sing is canto. Canto. You, singular, sing is cantas. How do you say, do you sing? Remember, if you've seen before, just a shrug and an uplift of the voice. Cantas? Simplicity itself. So what's cantan, cantan bien? Cantan, cantan bien. They sing well. Bien, bien, simple. Really, really, really common word. It means okay or well. Muy bien, M-U-Y, means very well. Muy bien. So, there's that process going on in front of you. That you have to learn. End of. So many intermediates ask me for help in their Spanish, and it turns out that mostly they're not pronouncing it right, but also they're getting their verb endings mixed up, and it's hardly surprising that even though they've taken A-level Spanish, let's say, or been to college and done Spanish, what happens with these is you drift back into English and so on and so on. So these are really important to understand, because you need to understand when a Spanish person says to you, cantar. He won't say tú cantas, which is the pronoun for you singular. He'll say cantas, and you've got to think, cantar, okay, cantas, so it takes time. So you need to learn these. These will just sink into your mind for the different styles of the verbs. Okay, so that's cantar, using the system of I, you singular, he or she, we, you plural, they. You need to get that fixed in your mind because it's a mechanical process. Okay, let's do it with an ER verb. So we've got AR, ER and IR. An ER verb would be beber. Remember, it's not beber, it's bear, wide mouth frog, all the time. Beber. So, okay, Not that different, really. Endings are O, S, E, hemos, es, en. So whenever you're listening to somebody saying something in Spanish, once you've got all those endings in your mind, you'll hear the mosses and the masses and the misses and the mosses, and you know immediately. Your brain will do it. He's talking about we. Okay? And the en and the an and the so on, talking about they. That's why you have to get this absolutely fixed in your mind. So, how do you say, you all drink? Bebéis. We take this off. Get rid of that while we're doing this. And add that. Because that's you all. I, you singular. He or she, we, you all, they. Bebéis. You all drink. Simple, isn't it? Yes, we'll go into futures, we'll go into past perfects. There are lots and lots of things. But there's no point in starting trying to learn everything all at once, because all that happens is your brain will just give up. And it just bounces out. So we'll do this a bit at a time, and hopefully you'll do some practice and find some other sites where they go into incredible detail. This is enough detail to get you the basics there, and just use your own methods. So that's an ER verb. So we've done AR, ER, and an IR verb. Let's do an IR verb. And let's do beber. Beer, not viver. Viver. It's beer. Beer. Double E, beer. Wide mouth frog. And that's to live. And the endings are, once again, not that dissimilar. O, S, E, hemos, is, and en. Okay? So they're not that dissimilar from the last lot. From beber, it was O, S, E, hemos, es, en. So there's only those two things that are different. One of the reasons that we always write it that way is you'll notice that the only difference really between that one, the beber, and that one is these culprits here. Yeah? Bebo, bebes, bebe, bebemos, bebéis, ben. Beben. So that's called, and it will be really useful to you in the future, we're not going to go into details now, it's called in English, the boot. Looks a bit like a boot if we put a heel on it. And those are called out of the boot. And that, don't worry about it now, you don't need to know that now, but I'm mentioning it because it will be very, very useful to you in the future to know that a typical verb is out of the boot or in the boot. Don't worry about it now. So, there we go. So, they live in London. Okay, let's take that, get rid of that for now. There's the stem. Remember that word, I've used it so many times already, I'm sure. The stem. Find the stem. Every regular verb has got one. And you simply stick on the right ending for that type of verb. So each regular IR verb has the same endings. And they live in London. London is vive en Londres. In Spanish, London is Londres. Just the way they say London. Viven en Londres. Yo Notice I use the pronoun, and I know you may not know pronouns now. I'm using them just to get you used to hearing them a little bit. We'll do pronouns, can't do everything at once, okay? Yo vivo en un pueblito, a small village, se llama Verdun. Verdun. Es en el Pirineo. El Pirineo is the Pyrenees. So the Pyrenees are at the back of where we're standing now. I was up climbing them yesterday in the beautiful sunshine. So all you need to do is learn these endings for regular verbs, for AR verbs, for ER verbs, and for IR verbs. And find some of those and do some practice. Go on to other sites for verbs, and just what I would strongly recommend is, even if you think you know those verbs, is to just make sure periodically that you do, because it's very easy to just imagine that you do. When you're talking to somebody or listening to somebody who's speaking Spanish, you'll be nervous slightly. It's both good and bad because your brain works a bit quicker, but it's very easy for it to get very, very muddled. Okay? So those are the basic processes that you need to get fixed in your own mind. And until we can get that sorted, then we can't do much more. So please have a good look at them. AR verbs, ER verbs and IR verbs. And just to set us into the next session, we have regular and irregular Spanish verbs. What I've done with you is AR, ER and IR regular verbs. And on a regular verb, you just find the stem plus the ending. That's a really good mechanical process. It doesn't change. Yes, we'll have to look at irregular verbs and so on and so on. We'll do that. We'll do that as we go along. Hope that's clear to you. Please have a really good look at those verbs, because it will hold you back tremendously. See you next time for some more verbs.